Welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow Season 10. It's been 10 seasons of empowering India's small businesses such as yourselves and hand-holding and guiding you in your growth journey. I'm Sunanda Jayaseelan. On the show tonight, we're bringing you highlights of our panel discussion and experts from our Jaipur Town Hall. On the Town Hall today, we unravel the tourism and hospitality industry in Jaipur. Joining us, Jayant Singh, Managing Partner, Treehouse Hotels, Resorts and Spa. Akshay Gurnani, Managing Director, Gurnani Hotels and Resorts.
The city gears up for the upcoming festive season, tourist season, wedding season. Is there a change in orientation? Is there a shift in strategy, a shift in focus as to how the travel and tourism sector is conquering opportunities that lie ahead?
So the way that I would like to answer this is, let me just put forward some challenges that we're going to face.
Please, sir.
See, after the pandemic or during the pandemic, we all went through a lull, Our cash reserves were absolutely down. We had to send a lot of people back home because nobody wanted to take the risk of having people on the premise as such.
Absolutely.
And a whole lot of, the depreciation started happening. The assets that we were managing or we had were showing wear and tear because, 1 year or 6 months of not operating a hotel really depreciates the asset. Immediately after that, you must have heard of this term called revenge tourism happen. Right? Everybody's been talking about a revenge tourism which has happened. And suddenly the occupancy soared. Suddenly we started getting into the wedding frenzy because most of the banquets were still not open and people were flocking to smaller hotels or city hotels to do the weddings. So once that happened, we still didn't have our manpower back. We still weren't geared for actually serving the guests back.
Or the surge in demand.
Absolutely. So the surge in demand, we were not ready for that, to be honest. And because the way I think the industry, and I'll be very candid, the way the industry actually treated the employees at that point of time with salary cuts and sending the people home. And there was nothing that one could do, I think. It was more to do with you had to keep a balance in your bank, right? So whatever was needed to be done to be able to keep your head above the water, people did that. But people didn't come back. So when we really needed the people, and it's a people-centric industry, you can create great hotels, but if you don't have people to serve, what do you do?
What do you do?
So suddenly we were left with nobody to serve. I mean, literally it was like that. You had a wedding of 300 people and you were looking for people to actually go and serve. And even now, to be honest with you, people are not joining our industry. 30%, and I was told 30% of the IHM seats this year went vacant. So we are, the surge in demand has happened. We are all very, very happy with it. There is a euphoria around revenge tourism. There is a euphoria around all the money that the hoteliers are earning. But right now, I feel we are still not geared to actually serve it to that level, especially from the manpower point of view.
Sure. Yeah. And, Jayant, all very fair observations. And Akshay, I'd love for you to weigh in on some of what we've heard, but also if we bring some facts and figures to the conversation, for example. Like in the year 2021, Rajasthan had upwards of 2 crore domestic tourists, as opposed to fewer than 35,000 foreign tourists, international footfall. So clearly it's the domestic tourism sector that has kept this industry afloat. But how do you slice and dice that segment of the market and that particular demographic?
So I would like to tell on this point that after COVID, when our industry was gearing up back, domestic tourism was the major survival for us. As till now, I would say foreigners and FIT guests are not yet covered. And Flights also from a lot of countries are not started back.
Of course.
And local people of Jaipur, or I would say people from around India, they started tourism and they started to come around. And the business which was geared up through them was one of the major chunk. And then the second business which we got is weddings, huge weddings happening. And during COVID, there were a lot of guidelines issued by government. All the weddings which were happening, they were like minimum 50 guests, not more than that. And a lot of,
Maximum.
yeah, maximum 50 guests and not more than that. So a lot of guidelines which were removed by the government. So after that, the business boomed. And that was a great thing which happened.
Well, all right. So, if I come back to you now, Jayant, right? When we look at the domestic tourism footfall, right? Obviously, it is a slightly less premium market than what you would expect, perhaps, from international tourists. They are perhaps more cost sensitive. But the other factor in play here is that international holiday that they would perhaps take in a Switzerland or a Bangkok or a Dubai or a Singapore is now money and time spent within the country. So how did that change domestic spending trends? And to what extent did that provide you optimism as this sector began to experience a revival?
So first of all, it's a misnomer that if you have foreigners coming, they'll spend more.
It's a misnomer,
It's
sir.
a misnomer. So if you have 10 million foreign tourists who are coming to a country, you say that 0.5% of that would be the spending ones. Rest of them, what we are getting in bulk, are the ones who are what we call the backpackers and the budget travelers. There are some mid-segment people who are coming. Most of us who have hotels in Rajasthan would agree with me that we were very happy with the foreign tourist. Because they're very, very low maintenance.
Sure.
Very low maintenance. They come, they would not even complain. They would stay the night. Next day morning, early checkout. They'll do your Hawa Mahal. They'll do everything else. They'll come back, have a beer, sleep. Next day morning, they're out to the next city.
Right.
So there are no complaints, and the cost of running the room is very low when a foreigner is there. It's very low. But here, when you have a domestic traveler, and you'll be surprised today that our ADRs throughout, if you see the comparison of ADRs, they have shot through the roof.
Right.
So who's spending that?
Yeah.
Is the domestic traveler who's spending it. And when they spend money, and when as Indians, when we spend money, we want value for our money. We might go to a Dubai and say, okay, I'm going to carry my own bag. Or if I might go to any European country and say, okay, I'm going to pick my bag. But in India, even if I'm staying in Oyo, I need somebody who's picking up my bag and going. The cost of servicing an Indian client is far higher. We are not the cleanest people when we leave the rooms. We will get our own bottle of alcohol in the room, and we will drink, and we will make merry. And I'm not talking about value hotel or budget hotels. I'm talking about hotels which are branded, and it's across the board. As Indians, we love to do that. So to handle an Indian clientele, to be honest with you, you have to have a different mindset. Right. You need to know that people are going to be doing that, and you need to prep up your team, saying that, listen, this is going to happen. There's a weekend which is happening. There's going to be loud music. You will have some problems. There will be alcohol which will be in the room. So all these things keep on happening. So it's a different mindset when you run a hotel which is more foreign business-centric and Indian business-centric.
Fair enough, sir. And with that, I'll come to you. Because I believe that over 75% of the country's heritage hotels are located in the state of Rajasthan. And, I think the underlying USP here is that those hotels are, perhaps global in spirit, but very Indian at heart. They offer an incredibly authentic experience. Is that really the need of the hour in the current day and age, or have consumer preferences now evolved?
So I would like to say on that recently the people who travel to the hotels, they are looking into more personalized services. They are, instead of going to the restaurant for having a breakfast buffet, they would prefer a bed and breakfast, like breakfast to be served in the room, and all the good services like butler services for all the rooms. And people are ready to pay for that also. And the heritage properties which are there in Rajasthan, they offer quite a different kind of cuisines, and they offer a lot of good experiences. And in Rajasthan, I would say it's like climatically, it's very good. So you have like good cold winters in the evening, and in the morning, all the season, the weather is very good. So people are traveling and they love to enjoy in the hotel properties and all the heritage properties which are there. they're offering very good things to the customers.
Sure. Well, Jayant, Akshay just brought up cuisine. And I think when I think of Jaipur, it's such a nice blend of Eastern and Western sensibilities, right? And if you bring up cuisine, immediately, LMB comes to mind, yeah, MI Road ki lassi comes to mind, right? Rawat Kachori comes to mind. And Ashish sir a moment ago was talking about startups. So I'm very curious to understand if, as an extension to hospitality, whether you see Jaipur emerging as the next food tech, startup hub or ecosystem. Is that something that lies in the cards?
Oh, absolutely. Food is something which will never go out of style. I mean, you look at my size and you look at my. I mean, food is something that we all love, and sweets, I think, is something which is a major fondness for Rajasthan and Jaipur in particular. So just to give you an instance, there is this samosa party, which is a startup, which was funded. They just do samosas for parties.
That's it.
So yeah,
delivery only, no dine-in.
You can have a mirchi vada party. I mean, that's what the Jaipur startup could look like,
Right.
So yes, in terms of, I think the kind of cafes that I've seen coming up and mushrooming in Jaipur, they are far better than what we have seen coming up in Delhi, to be honest with you. The kind of, now the culture of going out, and he's been a pioneer in actually getting people out. But yes, food tech as well as food innovation can definitely start from here and from the local cuisine which is there, which is available. Because that's what people like to eat. 80% of us still like to eat dal chawal, it's only 20% times when we go out and eat something else.
Right.
So absolutely, Jaipur could be the next hub for any kind of food innovation which can happen.
I'll slip into a short break. Much more from our Jaipur Town Hall series on the other side. Do stay tuned. Welcome back. You're with us here on our Leaders of Tomorrow Jaipur Town Hall series.
I had a follow-up question for you, sir, because I wanted to take a closer look at how consumer preferences have evolved. All right, I think during the peak of the pandemic, we saw a lot of patrons gravitate towards, properties that were perhaps a bit more secluded, away from the hustle and the bustle of the city. Expansive private properties where a patron need not even set foot outside the property, all-inclusive packages, for sake of safety, if nothing else. Was that sort of just a knee-jerk reaction to the pandemic, or is that trend now here to stay? Because that, of course, turns the entire travel and tourism ecosystem on its head.
Well, if I could answer that, I would be a billionaire, to be honest with you. All I can say to this is that, so you have to see the entire industry in two segments. So there is this luxury segment, right?
Right.
Any person who could not go abroad during the pandemic took their private plane and went on to a luxurious resort, 30 key, 20 key, run of the, just out of the city kind of a place. And they were willing to pay $30,000, $40,000. Even today, if you see the rates in Rishikesh, 30,000 to 50,000 is what they're ranging at in Rishikesh, which about 5 years back, we just had some tents which were there.
Right.
So how the entire travel is evolving is that I think we have one realization which has happened is that domestic travel is here to stay. How do we make sure that the domestic traveler who's spending money here does not go out?
Right.
So you need to create, but that's a fact. You need to create properties here. You need to have the luxurious properties, and especially the heritage properties that we have, like you mentioned. They are a phenomenal attraction for any of the domestic traveler to come. Only thing is that they cater to a certain segment, a segment which is paying a lot of money. But in the mid segment, if you have something like that, I think that will be a winner.
Well, Akshay, I want to talk more about that whole segmentation exercise, because over the course of the pandemic, I think the prevailing perception was that the high-end hotels, right? The international chains are the ones that adhere to safety norms most closely, that adhere to, social distancing protocols most closely, and therefore a certain trust was reinforced in that segment of the market. So, budget hotels and motels were the one that really bore the brunt. But is that essentially a misnomer? And, as Jayant mentioned a short while ago, perhaps that market built and accumulated strength because of its affordability.
So I would like to say that yes, definitely the brand standards of the international chains, they are they are maintained properly. All the safety protocols and everything they take care. But then I would like to also say that the heritage hotels which are there in Jaipur, they are not back forward. They are also looking to the trends, and they are also offering all good services, and they are also keeping the good safety protocols. And because they know the clientele which they are targeting is like 30,000 a night, so they know that what kind of services they have to offer to them, so that the client stays and the client comes back once again. So all the brands and the heritage hotels or the boutique hotels which are there, they know what is the need of the demand, which is the need of right now. So they are offering that.
Well, look, Jayant, I believe, we all know that Jaipur is a foodie's delight. Jaipur is a shopper's delight. But there are certain segments of tourism that I think are somewhat taking the market by surprise. Jaipur is very much home to the Rajasthan Royals, for example, and sports tourism has taken a life of its own. There's also astrotourism with a lot of, stargazing observatories, stargazing safaris that now occur. Tell us more about these budding markets and how bullish you are on them.
Again, it's a very niche market at this moment, and it'll take time to develop. People tend to follow the path where they know it's the easiest to make money.
Right.
But what you are talking about is tough. So to do astrotourism, you need to have open space, no pollution, which means that you don't even have sound pollution there.
Exactly.
So you have to go to Ranthambore or Sabai Madhapur or somewhere which is close to Pali or somewhere to be able to actually see the night sky, or from, if you go 30 kilometers from here, Achrol for that matter, you would be able to see a lovely night sky. But the percentage is so low that I don't know how many people would really like to invest in it. Especially when you talk to businessmen like me, and actually, of course, the thing is that we look for easy way outs. I mean, we look at a ROI kind of a system. But now, with the present startup ecosystem and the youngsters coming into this entire fray, I am sure that experiential tourism is going to be the way forward. Yeah. It's just that you need a large number of youngsters. Like, to be honest with you, we are coming up with we were just talking, we're coming up with a caravan park.
Really?
I really want to see, the driving kind of a holiday through Rajasthan. So our first caravan park we are trying to bring up in Neemrana. We are setting up a caravan park. We don't even know whether there are caravans, but we are investing in it. Yeah. So you need to be a little bit of more forward thinker and think out of the box to be able to capture this market. And it's not an easy market. It's not that. It sounds very, very glamorous, Right. It sounds really glamorous. But is there money backing up that thing? Or, of course, if the bankers are willing to back something like this, we would be happy to do a deal today.
And by way of closing comments, and I pose this to you, Jayant, I believe that today's consumer, they have growing disposable income, right? They have, in many cases, the option to work from home. Staycations are now the new norm. They are perhaps increasingly socially conscious. The Make in India movement has become now a matter of ethics, rather than affordability or preference. It's a matter of, loyalty to one's country. How is all of this factored into Jaipur's travel and tourism ecosystem, and how do you see it evolving going forward?
I think it's absolutely critical for us to start taking pride in our nation. We all do, and especially travel and tourism, we really need to take it to the next level. If there are things that we all need to come together and say no to plastic, if that's a government initiative, we need to say no to plastic. If there are things which the government is saying a diktat, don't buy from this country, don't go and buy from that country. I think as an industry, we need to come together. And Rajasthan being a center point, like you said, close to 5 crore domestic travelers coming to Rajasthan. Definitely, it's a state which has put tourism onto the map of the world, right? So this has to be the epicenter of anything which is going to start. And a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of budding entrepreneurs, people who are willing to invest in the hospitality segment are coming and emerging from Rajasthan. So there's a bright future. And like you rightly said, we all need to take that pledge, be Indian, buy Indian, and we need to have India first.
Phenomenal. Well, ladies and gentlemen, a huge round of applause for our panelists, please. I mean, they've shared such incredible anecdotes from their personal and professional journeys. I believe it's deeply deserved. So we'll keep you on stage for a few moments longer. And, yes, Leaders of Tomorrow and is, truly a springboard of sorts for so many of our aspirations over the 10 years that it's been on air. And tonight is really intended for you. So if you have a question for one of our panelists, kindly please do raise your hand. Wait for a sanitized mic to reach you and please introduce yourself. Yes, gentleman in the front, if you could please introduce yourself. Wahan aapke peeche ek mic hai. Ji boliega.
Thank you so much. My name is Vasumitra Bharadwaj.
Hi, good evening.
I represent the artisan community. Been working on the revival of Amber Ki Chhap, which has been lost print for almost 500 years. And now question goes to Akshay.
Sure.
I really want you to share your focus towards as a partner or a colleague over coming decade together. Like who you've come from a hotel industry, we come from a craft industry. There's a very fine-tuned sync. How do you see that? Because when we're going to measure the business, you're going to be for a decade impact, right? Because craft industry are decaying. We need to come up and create a sync somewhere where we can create experiential tourism with that. Your take on this. Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
So I would like to say on that, see, a lot of people who travel to Rajasthan and, go to Amer for seeing the craft business and a lot of things. So there can be multiple things which can be done in a collaboration with a hotel. Like, for example, let's say that there are certain things which are created. And I would like to also tell that, there are a lot of people, a lot of hotels, and this is a part which I haven't seen in other parts. But in Rajasthan, definitely it's there that most of the hotels do have a heritage shop, a cultural shop in the hotel premises, being it silver, jewelry, or some other craft things. And, those places are there in each and every hotel of Rajasthan. This is something which I've seen only here, only in Jaipur.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Huge round of applause. And a huge round of applause for all of our panelists, please.
Thank you.
We ask that you kindly join our audience once again. Thank you so much.
Out of time on tonight's conversation. If you have any feedback for us, do let us know. Our details on your screens as we speak. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.